Hey, hey, Stormers! Welcome back to MATC Now. Today we're diving into mental health and some of the ways that MATC offers support for its students. So stick with us to meet our counselors, hear about the impact rock climbing can have on anxiety, and learn why some comfort foods make us feel as good as they do. It's the spring semester, and here at MATC Now, we're starting fresh with a new set and a new host. Howdy, my name's Hannah Tahtinen. I'm glad to be here and glad that spring is on its way. I don't know about you, but I'm over Wisconsin winters. Whether you call it seasonal affective disorder or frostbite of the mind, the long slog through the snowy season takes a lot out of you. Even on our best days, it can be difficult to stay on top of schoolwork. So with me in the studio today is my co-host, geMKE, a retention coach here at MATC. Thanks for coming in today, John.
Oh, you're welcome, Hannah. Thanks for having me. Like I said, my name is geMKE. I'm a retention coach here at MATC for the Community and Human Services Pathway Office. And how I'd like to describe our position is we're the guides on the side for students. Basically help them navigate the complicated web of college life, for example. And like it says, like we're retention coaches, so we like to, our job is to retain students, to keep them in school.
By preparing students to become social service workers or specialized counselors, the Human Services Associate degree offered by MATC kickstarts careers for those looking to help their community.
MATC students can get overwhelmed with homework and day-to-day life, or trying to balance the two. Counselors are there to help. Christine Litwin is one of those counselors. She's a licensed professional counselor and a prevention specialist.
Counseling is advantageous for a number of reasons, and as a counselor, we offer students, anyone that we work with, a safe place to talk about what they're facing, their feelings, kind of review how it's affecting them, and possible solutions to give them some relief or a plan of action.
Stress can be a very difficult thing. School, life, and work can all put a heavy burden on people, but the MATC counselors are here to help.
The number one thing is allow yourself to be stressed. I think people really, and it's an admirable quality, they want to handle things on their own, but I think during this time with so much unpredictable things happening, and even the vaccine, while there's hope, there's still the uncertainty, jobs, what classes, graduation, goals. I think everything is still very up in the air and confusing for people, and there's nothing wrong. It's very natural, very normal to just say, I've had enough, or this is, getting to me. A lot of times people don't want to recognize that, and if you don't recognize stress, it's going to come out in other ways, and sometimes, unfortunately, that might be physically. I think utmost is a sense of empowerment, that they don't feel alone and they can keep going. I really try and reinforce that their decisions are the number one driving force. They are the leader in their actions. I also want to make sure they don't want to, that they're safe, that sometimes when people are feeling bad and feeling hopeless, they lose that purpose to keep going.
You can contact a counselor or reach out to them over email or phone, all of which can be found on MATC's website under Student Resources.
Well, we do have a counselor, Carlos Aranda, who's bilingual. He speaks Spanish also. We work well with other departments, and in my experience, I've been at MATC forever. I've also worked in our accommodation services area, so we work well with other departments, with our Veterans Affairs Veterans Affairs specialists, we work with accommodation services, we work with multicultural. So if we don't have resources that students are comfortable speaking with us, we do have referral sources, the Mental Health Association, Sojourner, Family Peace Center, depending on what the student sees as issues. But we have connections with all our departments, and we all work with those departments to see what a student needs and is comfortable with.
Starting in March of this year, a counselor will be available to meet in person in S215.
In a COVID world, communities are in trouble. Homelessness, unemployment, and poverty are all up. Clinical depression is seeing an unprecedented rise. People need help. But in Milwaukee, MATC's Human Service Associate Program is training people to help curb these issues and improve the community.
I'm Marlene Dombrowski, and my position is a full-time instructor here at MATC's Human Service Program. Human service is often a misunderstood term because people will go, my students often say, people ask them what program in there and they say human services and they get it confused with human resources and everything else. What human service is about and our program should always be about is reflecting the needs of the community. So we often end up trying to connect it to social work programs, which is a sister, brother to in terms of social work.
The program has a rich history.
It did get started in the 60s through the War on Poverty movement. A lot of new agencies were opening because there was money from President Johnson's War on Poverty initiative. So there was a need for grassroots level workers. I call them worker bees. That's how I explain them to my students, that if you want to work with people and you want to work with the most vulnerable and at-risk people in your community, Human Service Program is for you.
Students of the Human Service Associate Program often have a personal stake in the work.
I think you can't do this job unless you have a personal stake. Your interest in change in the community, I'm a big one in terms of roles we play, our advocacy, where you see a need, you don't stay quiet. So yeah, I think most students, and there's even research that's been done on the helping profession, in all helping profession, in terms of social workers, human service workers, healthcare workers, and so forth. And one of the titles is called Wounded Helpers. That someplace in your background, usually you've had a family member or a friend and you've had a circumstance that something draws you into it. And so a lot of our students will tell you they're here to give back. They've gone through struggles, crisis, they want to help. You can find them in group homes and residential treatment centers, working with youth in after-school programs. You can find them at domestic violence shelters and homeless shelters and food banks, and they've been very, very busy this last year because of the pandemic.
But the pandemic has been hard for students too.
But in a human service field, the interaction, understanding diversity is so important, and understanding cultures and so forth. You don't get that online. And the same with my ethics course that I teach in the first semester. It's a whole different thing when you're sitting in a group with students and they're talking about different ethical professional dilemmas and how they're going to work through it and what they think about it, how their beliefs might conflict or not. Totally different online.
Still, the program stays strong, and finding more information is easier than ever.
Well, the best place now is what MATC has developed in terms of the pathways, and we're part of the SERVE pathway. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but you go just to the main MATC website and go under academics and look under SERVE pathways, and you'll find human services there with childcare and criminal justice and let's see what else. We've got funeral services, and those are all the different categories in the SERVE area. The EMTs are in there, the firefighters, so we're all in that service area, so that's where you would go.
Through the Human Service Associate Program, MATC continues to work towards a brighter future.
The students of the Human Services Department are definitely putting in the work to help people in need. However, if you're struggling with anything, you don't have to wait for your classmates to graduate. In addition to LPCs, another resource MATC provides are retention coaches. My co-host John Mitkich is one, and joining us today is Rodney McLean, who is both a retention coach and a licensed professional counselor. So glad to have you on the show, Rodney.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for having me here. Let me correct one thing. I'm seeking to get my license by taking a test. I'm not licensed yet, but I'm seeking to become licensed. So I just wanted to add that out there. But we do have great, capable clinicians, as Carlos Aranda, Christine Lidwin, and Kay Cunningham. And again, I'm honored to work with the threesome awesome LPCs we have on our staff.
Great. So, Rodney, this is John. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, sir.
Yeah, good. So, I know we have like the same title per se, but I think we approach our jobs and our work and our role a little bit differently. So, what do students come to you specifically for?
A lot of students who come to me are wounded. They're wounded and hurt based on some, mainly academic issues, but yet the academic issues mainly lead to more complicated and complex concerns that deal with their mental health, their emotional state, their livelihood. A lot of issues can dovetail into psychosocial issues, where students are just reaching out to speak to me or to anyone who's willing to listen or have a passion ear to help them not just digest their academic concerns, but also their life challenges that they face. And a lot of students they're hurting and they're wounded because they're just needing to have someone to reach out and have time to listen.
My question for you is, how long have you been a counselor here? And at your time at MATC, have you noticed their approach to helping students with mental health change?
Yes, ma'am. I've been at MATC, it'll be 29 years this month. I was a former counselor program counselor, if you will, that dealt with admissions and application processing. But now as a retention coach, my job is to deal with academic and also personal issues that may lead to the barriers that prohibit a student from progressing academically. So when it gets to be more personal, problematic, the issues that may stop a student from progressing, that may deal with some mental health issues, we do refer them to our licensed LPCs and also get them some personal support. But right now, I think because of the COVID situation, I think mental health is really on the front burner, if you will. It used to be on the back burner. We see now that many students are crying out and needing the help that's needed. And we do have a passion as a college to take this as a serious concern. I see that it was, again, the time that I was at MATC up until now, mental health has always been here. It's nothing new to us, but yet the voices of the voiceless are being heard now. Again, the voices of the voiceless are being heard. And I think this year, that because of the guided pathway, we have LPCs, licensed counselors, in play that are in play now that have not been in play. Even though they were licensed LPCs, but now is a whole team of LPCs that target the core issues that may hinder a person that is affected by mental health. So it's more, I think 2021 is going to be a new dawning of support moving forward. I'm so proud of our team. I'm so proud of the resources available to help that population.
That's wonderful to hear. Could you please just give just maybe a word of advice if there are any students watching who may be a little apprehensive about reaching out for the sake of their mental health?
Yes, ma'am. What I would do is tell someone right now who's listening. I'm looking at you right now. We as a staff are here to support you, the retention coaches, advisors, any of your guided pathway offices. I would say reach out to your team of people, but also reach out to someone who is there to give you some support. Because here's the thing, the most important thing I want to tell a student, when you are in need, you're not by yourself.
Absolutely.
There are people here for you.
Thank you so much.
We are here for you. Okay?
Absolutely. There are so many people on staff here at MATC who have given their time and work here to make sure that they can give students the support they need. If you've been considering therapy but aren't sure that it's something that's worth the effort or money, the counselors here on campus are a great place to start. But counseling isn't the only support MATC offers. Our on-campus correspondent Tyler Irely joins us live from the building to show us where students can go to access these essential services.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm here in the Student Resource Center, room S215, and we're going to talk with Marty Ordnance, who is the Right Path Program Advisor here. Marty, how you doing? Good, Tyler. How are you today? I'm great. Give me a 50,000-foot overview of the Student Resource Center.
So the Resource Center was put together in the last couple of years. The idea behind it was that students have many more things going on in their lives other than just the books in the classroom. And so the thought was we needed to bring resources to campus so that the many issues that students have could be addressed, such as food and housing and mental health issues and so on. And so this place now has been made to be a one-stop shop for students that they can get access to people and resources that will hopefully allow them to succeed at their academic side of life as well.
That's fantastic. What kind of problems can students bring here to get taken care of?
Well, things like food insecurity, mental health, housing. Program that I work with is working with students that need to come back to school to finish up their high school diplomas. We have Legal Action of Wisconsin here, driver's license recovery, so there's all kinds of things students need, and this becomes the place where they can come and get those services.
That's fantastic. You're the Right Path Program Advisor. Tell me a little bit more about what the Right Path Program is.
Sure, we're working with students who are coming back to school to finish up high school, either through a GED or a high school diploma. And we're working with students who, for one reason or another, had a difficult time in life, perhaps, and have now come here to finish up. We provide support to them by paying their books and their fees and their classes and so on, and then offering additional support for them as well.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So Legal Action is here. I see a couple other offices here, but obviously everything with being remote right now, is there a way that students can get this help online?
There is. As far as I know, all the agencies that were here pre-COVID are still accessible, either online or by phone. The FSET program is here, so students that have daycare issues or transportation issues can come here and get that through the FSET program. Legal Action, I'm quite certain, can be accessed through the telephone or online. Driver's license recovery is here on campus still. So some things are still here. We've been told that academic advising and counseling are coming here once a week, or at least some portion of a week, and so they will be here. But all of the agencies here, as I understand it, are all accessible to students still.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Thank you for your time, of course. And Hannah, we're going to be sending the metaphorical broadcast back to you.
Always here to catch you, Tyler. Even if you aren't on campus like we are, many MATC partnered organizations have moved their services online. To learn more, we met with the president of Mental Health America about how they've adapted to the increased need for virtual assistance. But first, student producer Shannon Maines shares her story on how taking up a challenging new hobby affected her mental health.
Reaching new heights has taken on a new meaning to me since I've started climbing. I remember my first time climbing was when I was about 9 or 10, and it was for one of my brother's kind of college field day, family day things, and I just remember it was a really exhilarating experience. It wasn't until years later that I was able to climb again, and even then it was infrequent. Then, a few years back when I moved to Wisconsin, I learned that there were rock climbing gyms near me, and I resolved to check them out. Now I'm able to climb on a more regular basis. And because of that, I've been able to improve in my skills and I've been able to strengthen myself both mentally and physically. Climbing is an intellectual sport as well as a physical sport. You have to really think about what you're doing when you're climbing. You can't just muscle your way up the wall. You have to be deliberate. Some people think that climbing is all about upper body strength, and that's just not true. If you have bad upper body strength or you feel like you're weak, you can still be a good climber. Climbing is a full body exercise. You're using your hands, your feet, your arms, everything's working together. Climbing isn't necessarily a dangerous sport. You just have to be really careful when you climb. If you don't follow the right procedures, you can get really hurt. But there are several things in place that guarantee safety. The rope, the harness, the anchor point, your belayer. If you know what you're doing and you follow the proper guidelines, then you'll be fine. So the biggest irony for me is that I'm afraid of heights, and climbing is all about heights. You're climbing this 60 to 80 foot wall held only by a rope and your harness. That's pretty daunting. It was only after climbing a few times that I realized that I was comfortable and I was overcoming my fear of heights. I didn't wait for my fear of heights to go away. I faced it head on. Something about climbing is learning when to give up. This isn't admitting defeat, it's accepting humanity. Your body gets tired, it needs a break, and after struggling for a while, sometimes you need that. And sometimes you need help. You need that outside perspective. You need someone who isn't there looking and telling you new ideas, new insights to help you overcome the struggles you're having right now. I remember the first time I went climbing outdoors. It was a new experience for me and I was very unfamiliar with the experience. And the first time I tried to climb up the wall, I failed. I was so disappointed. I was discouraged and I was upset. It wasn't like this was my first time climbing. I had been climbing for a few months at this point, so I felt like I should have succeeded. I felt like I should have made it to the top, and I just couldn't. There were fears that I had to overcome. It was such a new experience for me, and I had to overcome these fears that I didn't realize that I had. I didn't realize that tight spaces made me so nervous, and I had to overcome that anxiety, that feeling of claustrophobia, so that I could climb up the wall. But after that first failure, I took a step back. I stepped away from the wall. I stepped away from my problem to reevaluate, to gain a new perspective. And I knew I didn't want to quit, so I tried again. Every time I go climbing, I realize that I can overcome fear. I overcome my fear of heights, my fear of tight spaces, even my fear of inadequacy. Without really realizing it, climbing has changed me. I know it sounds cheesy. There is real power in pursuing a hobby, like finding a new passion. Who knows? You just might change your life.
Mental Health America of Wisconsin, located at 600 West Virginia Street, has partnered with MATC in hopes to help students and others to get the opportunity to receive the mental help they may need.
We have partnered with MATC for a little bit over a year, about a year and a half. We are one of the partners in the Wellness Center on the second floor. We have an office. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we have not been in office like many of the other partners. But we are providing resources and staff on site in the Wellness Center 2 to 3 days a week when in-person classes and programs return to the MATC downtown campus. We will be on site. So people can certainly talk to someone, a mental health provider, seek services, and if they're looking, I should say, seek resources. And if they're looking for ongoing therapy or therapeutic groups, we would refer them to our Milwaukee office on 6th and Virginia. So our services normally are in person we have a couple of locations, but currently we're offering telehealth services and in person. So, certainly about 6 months ago, people were not comfortable, but I think that the community is slowly moving towards wanting some services in person. So some people have just requested to have in person, but we certainly will continue and still are offering telehealth.
With the ongoing pandemic, Mental Health America has had to face many challenges, one being in making the switch over to the virtual world, which isn't as easy as some may think.
Interestingly, we are seeing a decline in people reaching out for mental health services, which, as you can imagine, is concerning because we've all heard the increased isolation and increased anxiety with so many unknowns. It seems like people would be seeking more mental health services. There's lots of reasons for that. One, I think we just spoke about, not everyone is comfortable with telehealth, doing it virtually. Others are just not comfortable talking to someone and they're not in the same room. But I think others are just really overwhelmed and or distressed, and just reaching out for help is just challenging. So we're certainly seeing a decline in mental health, in people reaching out for mental health services. But the other challenges that we're also seeing are people knowing where to get services, because not everyone is doing virtual services. The best place to find out where people can obtain services is actually on our website, www.mhawisconsin.org. And the reason I say that is that we have a very comprehensive online directory, not just of our services, but of all the services in the community. And then right on the front homepage to the right is a map of the state of Wisconsin, and people can click their county and find specific mental health services in their county. So people who attend MATC, not everyone is from the city of Milwaukee. They might be, but it's possible that people are traveling from other counties or outskirts of the greater Milwaukee area. So I just want people to know that you can obtain information about mental health and other resources on our website. So it's kind of a centralized place to go.
Mental Health America offers multiple different programs and services for the specific mental help ones may need.
It's not just therapy. We also offer online resources. We have information about mental health and wellness support groups, substance use disorder information. So it's just really, if people want to have a one-stop place to get started, to know about other resources, I hope they consider MHA.
There are so many good resources out there and plenty of caring people willing to help. With all the stress that school can bring, sometimes it's nice to not have to think too hard about what's for dinner. Whether you consider it a comfort food or a guilty pleasure, good old mac and cheese is a great way to end the day. Our very own Chef James is here to show us just how easy it is to whip up this tasty delight.
Thanks, Hannah. With the weather outside being pretty cold and gloomy, let's talk about a meal that your mom's probably been making for you since you were in preschool. Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is one of the easiest meals to make, and it really doesn't take too much time either. To make mac and cheese, all you're gonna need is a pot to boil your water and cook your noodles in, a strainer, but if you don't have one, it's okay, you can strain it with the pot lid. You'll need your mac and cheese itself. You'll need milk, butter, and any topping you might want to put on. We've got hot sauce today. And don't forget a spoon. So let's talk about why mac and cheese is such a great comfort food for this time of year. The winter's been going on for a while. It's already March, which feels really weird. And mac and cheese is just a nice, warm, comforting meal that when you can make it under 10 minutes, it's great to come home to after a long day. And it can even make you remember more comforting times when you were younger, and that's always nice in these times. Now, I've already boiled the water and cooked the noodles because it takes about 7 to 8 minutes. And, well, we don't have the time for that. But when you're done, you're going to drain the water out of the pan. You're going to use a strainer or a colander, or if you don't have it, you can take it over the sink and carefully strain it out using the lid. Careful not to burn your hands on the water or the steam. Now you've got your noodles back in your pan. You're going to add a 1/4 cup of milk. I personally like 2%, but it's really up to you. Then 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, if you want to be a little healthier, though it is mac and cheese, you can always have the amount of butter and it still turns out delicious. There we go. And of course, can't forget our delicious cheese sauce. Once you've got these all in the pot, you're going to want to mix it up. And so it goes from noodles with some milk and butter and powder into something a little more like a sauce. Now you can always alter the amount of milk or similar in if you want to have a thinner or thicker sauce. Once you're all done, you're going to grab a plate or a bowl, whatever you fancy, and we're going to get our noodles on top. Let's get these on. And there we go. Once it's there, you can add whatever toppings you want to add. Again, we've got our hot sauce here today. Sprinkle some of that on. And we're basically ready to eat. That's basically all the time we have today. And so I hope you enjoy your mac and cheese. And don't forget, you're never too old to enjoy a nice bowl or plate of mac and cheese.
Thanks, James. He's right. Mac and cheese is a timeless staple. Boxed or handmade, it always brightens my day. I'll be adding that to my meal plan for the week for sure. If you're looking to add some virtual events to your schedule, Hannah has you covered with all of your school activities in this week's MATC Minute.
As of today, you can start browsing fall and summer classes on MATC self-service. Current students can register for those semesters starting on April 13th, but right now you are still able to register for 8- and 12-week courses that start this month. This Thursday, Prospanica Milwaukee and the MATC HSI are holding the first annual Latinx Career Opportunities Conference. Join over Zoom for career guidance, advice on making the most of your time at MATC, and to learn everything you need to know about transferring to four-year schools. Also on March 11th, MATC leaders are hosting a cafe chat for students to ask questions, share concerns, and talk about what they want to see from the school. Check your email for the Zoom link. The room opens at noon. And for students who are looking to crush their courses, MATC counselors are holding virtual mindfulness sessions Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Participants will be guided through various techniques to stay grounded while managing the stress of college life.
Wow, it's a huge relief to know that your school has your back. But sometimes the best thing you can do for your mental health is to step away from school for a while. Take a day, or at least an afternoon, to let your mind wander and reconnect with the natural world. Student producer Seth Wasserman does just that at Lynden Sculpture Garden, where nature and art coexist.
Hey everyone, I'm Seth Wasserman, student producer, and this is another hidden geMKE.
Today we're here at the Lynden Sculpture Garden, located right on the edge of Milwaukee County on Brown Deer Road
Originally, the main farmhouse was built in the 1860s for Harry Lynn Bradley, his wife Peg, and daughter Jane. The property was given its name, Lynden, in April 1926 after Harry married Peg.
You would never believe that there's 40 acres of sculpture garden right behind here.
Over the years, the Bradleys, with help of architects and gardeners, took their 40 acres and turned it into something very beautiful and very hidden.
The property has a lot of little stories. For example, this bridge was built to recreate a swimming hole that Harry swam in Kansas as a child.
Open to the public on May 30th, 2010, people could now roam this beautiful land filled with gardens, flower beds, a lake that you can skate on during winter, if conditions are right, and huge sculptures that have been built on site or brought in by Peg until her final days as the director and collector.
If you think this place is cool now, you should definitely check it out in the spring.
Seems like a good place to take a seat and really take it all in. Thanks for joining me on this week's Hidden geMKE.
Well, that's all for this season's premiere episode of MATC Now. Remember, there are a lot of counselors and traditional talk therapists out there for you, but there's no single perfect solution that works for everybody. You gotta experiment. Along with seeing a professional, try getting outdoors, finding new passions, or just having honest conversations with the people in your life that you care about your struggles. Remember that MATC is here for you and that it takes time to see change within yourself. But most of all, remember that you're worth the effort. Thanks again to John Mickich and Rodney McLean for spending the morning with us. I'm still Hannah Tahtinen, and we'll be here again next week. Take care.